Story 1. The Infestation of West Pittston, the Smurl Haunting. Theme: demonic infestation, aggressive poltergeist, true psychological terror. Tone: dark, oppressive, highly detailed. The hook: narrator. Think about the one place where you feel completely safe, your home, the walls that protect you from the outside world. Now, imagine those same walls turning against you. Imagine a presence so toxic, so deeply malevolent, that it doesn't just want to scare you, it wants to break your mind, body, and soul. What you're about to hear is not a Hollywood screenplay. This is the documented, terrifying reality of the Smurl family of West Pittston, Pennsylvania. A family that spent 15 agonizing years sharing a duplex with a literal demon from hell. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and let's dive into the darkness. SFX. Low, ominous drone. The faint, rhythmic ticking of an old grandfather clock. Suddenly, the ticking stops. 30. The unassuming beginning narrator. The year was 1974. Jack and Janet Smurl, a devoutly religious, hard-working couple, were looking for a fresh start. Along with their 2 young daughters, they moved into a modest, double-block duplex on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It was a quiet, blue-collar neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. The house was old, sure, but it had character. It felt like the perfect place to raise a family. For the first few months, life was normal. But looking back, Janet would later recall that the house always felt heavy, like the oxygen was just a little scarcer inside those walls. The first sign of the anomaly wasn't a phantom or a floating object, it was a smell. SFX, a wet, squelching sound followed by a low hiss. Narrator. It began in the kitchen. A sudden, overpowering stench of rotting meat mixed with sulfur. It was so intense, it made Janet gag. Assuming a rodent had died beneath the floorboards, Jack tore off the baseboards and checked the crawl spaces. Nothing. The pipes were clean, the walls were solid, and then as quickly as it arrived, the stench would vanish, leaving behind an icy chill that made their skin crawl. Then came the stains. A large, dark, oil-like substance began bleeding through the newly painted walls in the master bedroom. No matter how many times Jack scraped it, bleached it, and repainted it, the black stain would re-emerge by morning, shaped almost like a weeping human face. Chung. Bell. The sounds in the night. Narrator. By 1977, the entity began to find its voice. It started with the classic signs of a poltergeist. The sound of footsteps echoing on the wooden stairs when everyone was asleep. Thud. 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 SFX. Slow, heavy footsteps walking across a wooden floor. Narrator. Jack would wake up, grab his shotgun, and search the house, thinking a prowler had broken in. But the doors were always dead-bolted from the inside. Soon, the footsteps morphed into something far more sinister. The family began hearing the frantic, desperate sound of fingernails clawing at the insides of their bedroom walls. Scratch, 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 as if something was buried alive in the drywall, trying to tear its way out into their world. One night, their 13-year-old daughter, Karen, woke up screaming. When Jack and Janet burst into her room, they found the girl paralyzed with fear. The heavy oak dresser in her room was violently rocking back and forth on its own, slamming against the floor before levitating a few inches in the air and crashing down. Janet, dramatized voiceover. "Jack, get the Bible, please God, get the Bible." Narrator, but religion didn't protect them. In fact, it seemed to make the entity furious. Physical escalation. Narrator. As the mid-1980s approached, the entity grew incredibly powerful. It was no longer content with just making noise. It wanted blood. One afternoon, Janet was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Out of nowhere, an invisible force slammed into her chest, throwing her across the room. She hit the refrigerator and collapsed, left with deep, dark bruises that formed the distinct shape of a massive, non-human hand. But what happened to Jack Smurl remains one of the most disturbing accounts in paranormal history. Effects: heartbeat monitor racing, heavy, suffocating breathing. Narrator. Jack was sleeping in his bed when he suddenly awoke to total psychological paralysis. He couldn't move a finger. He couldn't scream. Standing at the foot of his bed was a mass of pure, shifting black smoke. It had no face, but Jack could feel an overwhelming sense of ancient, unadulterated hatred radiating from it. The shadow glided over his body, and Jack felt a freezing, suffocating weight crush his chest. He was violently assaulted by the entity, a terrifying spiritual violation that left him traumatized for the rest of his life. The family tried to flee. They went on a camping trip to get away from the house, but the entity followed them. While sleeping in their tent in the middle of the woods, the entire campsite was shaken by loud, booming thuds, and their blankets were violently ripped off them by unseen hands. There was no escape. Free unquote. Enter the Warrens. Narrator. Desperate and on the brink of complete mental collapse, the Smurls reached out to the most famous paranormal investigators in America, Ed and Lorraine Warren. SFX, static from an old cassette recorder. Narrator. When Lorraine Warren, a renowned clairvoyant, walked through the front door of the Chase Street home, she immediately collapsed into a chair, gasping for air. She later stated, "The air in that house was so thick with evil, it felt like drowning. There was a baseline vibration of pure malice." Ed and Lorraine concluded that this wasn't a ghost, it was a demon, a demonic entity that had attached itself to the land and was actively trying to destroy the Smurl family through psychological warfare, obsession, and eventual possession. The Warrens brought in a priest to conduct an exorcism. During the prayers, the house erupted into chaos. The temperature in the living room plummeted to below freezing within seconds. The walls shook, and a deep, guttural, animalistic growl echoed from the basement, mocking the holy water. The demon. Deep, distorted whisper. "You have no power here." The aftermath. Narrator. Despite multiple exorcisms, the demon refused to leave. It was too deeply rooted. In 1987, broken, bankrupt, and terrified, the Smurl family packed whatever they could fit into their car and abandoned the house forever. They moved to another town, hoping the nightmare was over, and while the violent physical attacks stopped, Jack Smurl confessed, until his dying day in 2015, that whenever he looked into a dark mirror or stared out into a foggy night, he could still see that black, faceless smoke watching him from the shadows. The house on Chase Street still stands today. The current residents claim nothing happens anymore, but the neighbors say otherwise. They claim that on hot summer nights, when the street is dead quiet, you can still hear the faint, desperate sound of fingernails scratching against the inside of the basement windows, trying to get out. What do you think really happened out there in the dark? Let me know in the comments below. If you want more true horror stories like this, show some love by hitting like and subscribe to become part of our midnight community. Stay safe out there.